This is the Amy Edwards Show, and I'm your host, Amy. This show is here to help all of us live our best life and feel amazing at absolutely every age. We focus on transformation and empowerment through practical tools, strategies, habits, and mindset shifts that will help you unlock your potential, build self-love, and embrace your unique journey. We'll cover everything from health and wellness to personal growth and spirituality with inspiring guests and real conversations. So if you're ready to level up, break out of your comfort zone, and make lasting changes, you're in the right place. It's never too late. In fact, some of your best days haven't even happened yet. Let's get to it. Love this moment and make the next one even shinier. Hello. Welcome to the show. Are you ready to have more rich relationships? Yeah, same. In every way. The word rich is just so good. Somebody described a dessert as rich to me the other day as a negative, and I was like, no, positive. Anything rich, I'm here for. And we're going to talk about that today. I'm so excited that you're here. So thank you so much for being here and showing up for yourself. This is where we expand, we grow. You take what works for you and you can leave the rest. And that is as life is, right? So thank you so much for being here. And thank you to our guest, Selena Soo. Selena, I have said your name in my head since, I can't stop saying it.
Oh my
You have a
goodness,
name
I
that
love
just
that.
rolls off the tongue. I love it so much. I've been singing it, and I'm just so happy you're here. So happy you're here.
Thank you.
Everyone, Selena Soo is a publicity and marketing strategist for visionary entrepreneurs, experts, and authors who want to reach millions of people with their messages. You've helped your clients reach people through Oprah's Magazine, of course, we all know that, Forbes, Business Insider, CNBC, Drew Barrymore Show, and lots more. And you're the author of the upcoming book out May 13th, very soon, Rich Relationships. Create a $1 million network for your small business. I'm so excited. You are a former New Yorker. You're now residing in beautiful Puerto Rico, which I haven't been, and I've been intending to go. It is on my list. And you say one rich relationship is more powerful than 100 casual connections. And that is so we know that about
Yes,
friendship.
right.
We know that, but somehow I think that loses itself in networking and social media.
Yeah, I think people forget also nowadays, we're looking at these external metrics. How many friends do you have on Facebook? How many social media followers? And there's this idea that the more we have, the better off we are. And that's not really true, right?
Oh my God, you are so right. And I have to check myself sometimes. And I even see other people. I was following someone big, Jamila Jamil or
Oh,
something like
yes.
that. And so she was, and several people do this, and they complain about their reach sometimes. I'm only reaching 15,000 people on my stories or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Everything's relative,
Sure.
right? But I check myself too sometimes if I get caught in the numbers are low
Yes.
thing. And I'm
Yes.
like, that one person matters so much. And not only that, that relationship, fostering those are so important.
Absolutely.
So how'd you get to this?
Yeah, how did I get into this? Well, I'll just maybe share about the work I do. So, I started this journey becoming, a coach, a consultant, an expert, because when I was in my late 20s, I had a quarter life crisis. So I was living in New York State.
How old are you now?
So, yeah, I know I look younger than I am. Yeah, I'm 42 right
Ooh,
now.
yes, I'm
Time of
all
this
for it.
recording. Yeah. Yeah, but I had that quarter life crisis. And I remember just having so much trouble getting out of bed in the morning, putting my clothes on, going to work. And things got so bad that my mom flew all the way from Vancouver, Canada to New York to be by my side. And I was just going through this deep, dark depression. And I remember saying to a friend, I can't keep feeling this way. And she told me about this female life coach. And I joined her program. I started going to this women's circle, and I got introduced to all of these incredible books and ideas. And that's when I realized that people don't just need more information, they're really looking for inspiration. And I found that the most inspiring thing is someone that has overcome something difficult. They're on the other side of it, and they can show people the path to get out of that pain. And so I just became really inspired to elevate other role models and people that embodied these messages of possibility. And so I became this publicist and connector. And, I've been doing that for well over a decade. But really, the through line of everything I do is relationships, right? Relationships are what is going to get you into the media. That's how I got this opportunity to be speaking to you. One of our, mutual friends connected us. And I just believe that rich relationships specifically are the fastest way to get from where you are to where you want to be. And every single problem in life can be solved through a rich relationship,
And
right?
it's that willingness of what you just did, right? Like, you just were vulnerable enough to say, "Hey, this is where I was."
Yeah.
And I don't think you can have those rich relationships if you're not willing to tell your story and really be vulnerable.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you hit on this because I think that there's a lot of people going through things right now. I mean, just, you
Oh,
know,
for sure.
I mean,
Everyone's going through something all the time, right?
something, there's always something, whether, I think about my friends and colleagues, whether they're going through a divorce or they're going through a really hard time in their business and financially things are,
Difficult.
disastrous,
Yeah.
difficult or disastrous, like,
Yeah.
or someone's home got hit by a wildfire or a hurricane. And these are not like anomalies. This is actually relatively common that some of these like big things that we just talked about are happening to people, right now, our friends and our colleagues. And I just think it's so important that, when people are going through things that we are quick to be that friend to support people, right? How can you be the first versus being the last? And yeah, rich relationships really help us get through those hard times in life.
I think we can hold ourselves back from those too. When it's something disastrous or hard, we can hold ourselves back by thinking we don't know what to say when it's really
Yes.
just about showing up.
Right. Or but and also the person that's going through it, sometimes they shut down. They feel ashamed that they're not making as much money as before, that their husband left them, that they're making shifts in their business and they feel like, I don't even know who I am. Like, what is my identity? I've heard a lot of people say, like, I don't even know if I'm relevant anymore. Right. And I've heard people also talk about, when maybe they've had a lot of success in business and they have friends who are also, maybe high multi six figure or seven figure earners. And now they don't have that title anymore, wondering, will people still want to be my friend if I'm no longer successful, right? Or if they don't feel successful, or, everybody gravitated towards me because of XYZ achievement, but I don't even do that anymore. And so I think that in order for us to receive support from our rich network, like we have to show up. And that's why I love that you said vulnerability and just be like honest and open and vulnerable. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm really struggling. I need your help. Or, I am going into my introvert shell or cocoon right now, and I love you so much, but I need to do this for myself. I think it's just so important to communicate with people, so that they can really support us with wherever we're at in our life or business.
Agreed. Agreed. And I'm wondering, do you touch on the worthiness aspect of that?
Yes, that's a big part of the book for sure. So in the beginning chapters of the book, we talk about the worthiness piece. I think that the reality is, like, when people think about relationships, a lot of networking books, it's like, what's your elevator speech, or,
Yeah.
this and
Yeah.
that. And sure, those are good things to know. But I think there's something so much deeper. The thing is, if we don't think that we're worthy of rich relationships, we're not going to have them. Right.
100%.
And so first we need to be able to see our own worthiness. And so in the book, I have people, get clear on what are their biggest strengths, what are the things they bring to the table, but also to look at their weaknesses. I know for myself, there was a time where I didn't feel good enough. I felt bad that I was someone that was so introverted and at the time, quite shy and all these different things. But the thing is, every so-called weakness is typically an over-functioning strength. So maybe you feel like, oh, why can't I be more of the life of the party, right? But maybe it's okay. I'm not good at it's not natural for me to lead a big room, but maybe I'm incredible at building intimate connections and creating trust. Or maybe if you're like, why am I so bad at details? It's like, well, maybe you're that visionary that is really good at the bigger picture, right? And so we just have to really like fully own ourselves and just understand that, like, when we look at the ecosystem around us, right, we're built on diversity, right? Like the sun, the moon, the stars, the animals, the flowers, right? We live in this diverse ecosystem, and similarly, like, we're all different as people. We're not meant to be identical and the same. And so just really understanding that you were divinely designed to be the exact person that you are one of one. There's literally no one else in the world like you. And just really owning your uniqueness. And there's so much more that I could say about worthiness, but the biggest thing is really like completely owning who you are, loving yourself, and really seeing all the things you bring to the table from your unique life experiences to your incredible skills, and really sharing that with the world. Because when you share your gifts, you literally are a gift to someone's life, and who wouldn't want someone like you in their network?
I mean, so much there with what you just said. And I find it, well, two things I want to say. One, I find it very interesting that you were this introvert and here you are in publicity. Like, does that ever surprise you? Are you
It's
like, wow, I didn't
interesting.
see that one coming?
I
Like,
think for me, I've always been passionate about elevating other people. It's less been about like, look at me, but more how do I get those other voices out there? But it's really like kind of full circle to be stepping into a place where I'm like, in addition to all the amazing people I support, that I have an important story and message that I want to get out into the world. And I think it's so important for people to see that diversity, that it's not only one kind of personality that can be successful in media or business, that people of all backgrounds and personalities can shine in the spotlight and, deserve to get their message out there.
which is that uniqueness again. And I feel like you're
Yes.
talking just to me.
Oh,
I had a really interesting weekend. We're filming this a little bit before
yeah.
your book release, but I went on this trip and I was with some extremely successful people. And my mind and my ego can get in the way, and I mean ego in comparison a bit,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
I had those feelings come up, and I feel like it's such a practice rather than a one and done.
Right.
And I didn't know if you spoke to that in your book a bit. It just surprised me a bit. I know these things, and yet still
Yeah.
I can get tripped up in the moment a bit and think like, what am I even bringing to the table? Do I even fit in here? Am I qualified? And, and here I am. I've done plenty in my life, but I kind of like go
Yeah.
like, am I? And so I have to check back in with myself. And I wonder in your book, what practices do you recommend to people to stay in their own flow and not let their head drag them down or something? Or what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it also depends on who you're connecting with because, a big part of the book is that you don't have to connect with everyone. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be a social butterfly and have thousands of people in their network. I'm all about
You're
quality
saying the
over
opposite.
quantity. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm all about being intentional. And, at the end of the day, like I believe rich relationships are with people where there is that values alignment, with people that inspire you to be your best self because you see a piece of yourself in them, right? There are people that also can help you reach your goals faster and that you can help them too. And that when you two connect, there is this opportunity to create more abundance, which includes financial abundance. And so I also just want people to know that, if they're in situations where maybe they don't get along with someone, that's okay because we're not meant to get along with every single person in the world. Not every single person is meant to be our rich relationship. And I think that when we really start from a place of service, so for me, when I was starting in my career, I mean, I had, no business, like no money, no nothing. But I was interacting with like these really influential people. But I was showing up because like I just admired their work so much. I would introduce myself. I would offer to connect them to people in the media. And I didn't have the media. I just started like slowly building them, but I would be like, oh, hey, so and so, you should meet so and this and that. And so, when you show up consistently as a giver, someone who is present, someone who is curious, someone who cares, someone who connects people to each other, someone who listens, someone who offers ideas, I mean, that's huge, right? People love having people like that in their lives. And so I think that there was a part of me, I never thought, as someone that was maybe day one in entrepreneurship, I'm definitely not the same level in terms of business experience as people that are wildly successful. But I also felt that I was a valuable person in their network because I knew that I was a person that gives so much more than I take. And the only reason why I'm showing up is because I want to be of service and I believe in them and I want to celebrate them and support them. And so, when you are a giver and that is like part of who you are, that's part of my identity, a rich giver, then you are a gift in people's lives. And there's different ways that we can be gifts. It's not that we have to be at a certain level of business or have XYZ knowledge, all the things that I mentioned previously in terms of being present, being curious, being helpful, These are all ways that make us very valuable in other people's lives.
And being genuine about that giving, because
yes.
if it's mired in a transactional
Oh my gosh.
space,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about you. I know
We're
you
so
have.
on the same wavelength. I love that you brought this up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about this a lot. I've done a lot of work on this because I check myself on that, and I talk about it on the show, like really truly operating from a space of surrender and letting go and not having those expectations, because that's where relationships start to get.
Yeah, I love that. So in the book, I talk about the idea of 3 different types of givers. And this is very much inspired by Adam Grant, who wrote a book called Give and Take. And so he talks about how when it comes to relationships, there are people who are matchers, like I do this for you, but then you do this in return. And they're like counting, all of the deeds. There are people, right?
Exactly, like tit for tat and all that, and I'm sure in your line of work, I am sure you have seen that over and over.
Oh my gosh, I see that so much. Yeah. And then there are people that are takers. Sometimes they're disguised as givers because they want to win your favor, but ultimately, like they just care about what's in it for me. Let me get my goods and then off I go. And then there's givers, but not all givers are created equally. In studies, they found that the most successful people were givers and the most unsuccessful people were givers because there's basically different types of givers. And so I kind of broke it down in more detail. And so basically, I see that there are transactional givers, which is, you do this and then I'll do that. And then there's indiscriminate givers. And so these are people that kind of put themselves last and they just they kind of help everyone. And oftentimes they're helping from a place of, I don't feel like I'm worthy.
Yeah,
So I
and
did.
at their own expense.
Yeah.
A lot of mothers can do that, like, we can get very trapped in that. Yeah.
Exactly. So let me just keep giving, giving, giving. Like if you ask me for something, the answer is yes. And they're actually disconnected from themselves.
Yeah.
And
They don't have no,
Right.
right? Like, they're,
Yeah.
like, depleted.
And so someone who is a rich giver is someone that is like purposeful in their giving, right? They enjoy giving. They identify as a generous person, but they also know that they're just one person, and that there's going to be certain places where that giving is going to feel more expansive and abundant, right? Whether it's people where they know, like, hey, we've got each other's backs, we care about each other. Or maybe it's someone that can do nothing for them, but they are just such a big believer in their work. And like, let me just pour into you. So there are people who give generously with no strings attached, and they can recognize, oh, there are possibilities for, abundance and synergy and more collaboration, but I'm going to give from a place of pure generosity, no strings attached. And I trust that good things will come back to me when I consistently show up as a giver. So that's what it means to be a rich giver.
I love that you really address this too, because it's such a foundational part of life, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
in relationships. And we have a nonprofit. I don't know how much you know about this, but we have a nonprofit, Fight for the Forgotten, and I founded a women's initiative. But it's been such an interesting learning experience to tell people about our nonprofit and understand that it might not be the time or the calling for some people,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And just letting that go and being okay with it, rather than like asking yourself, well, did I not do that right? Or, like,
Sure.
and so I've been able to apply that in other ways. And that's just been really a great life lesson for me, and just relaxing,
Mm-hmm.
just relaxing. How much of these building relationships is about relaxing and flow versus like showing up and effort? Like,
Yeah.
how do you address that in your book?
Yeah. So I actually use the term relaxed abundance in my
Hey,
book.
hello. I
Which,
love that.
yeah, so it's the idea that just like trusting that when I put out kindness and goodness and generosity into the world, it comes back to me.
Big time.
I trust that the right people are going to find me and I'm going to get connected to them and all of that versus coming from a place of scarcity and lack. But then there is also an effort piece, but the effort should really be coming from a place of excitement and inspiration, right? Versus like, oh, I have to do this thing. There are going to be plenty of people that each of us feels an incredible connection with. We really want to pour into those relationships that feel exciting and expansive for us.
100%. Yes. And of course, letting go of the expectations around that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes.
How has that shown up for you in practice? How has all of this shown up for you in practice, and what lessons are you getting as you've created this book?
Yeah, I mean, I can share a couple of stories.
Yeah,
So,
please.
for many years, I lived in New York City, and I thought that I would die there. I thought that that was just like my place. But then after time, I was like, I don't know. I love the cold weather all the time. And there is this kind of like chaotic energy in the city. And I just reached a point in my life where I wanted something more peaceful. And so,
I mean, when you walked in our house, you were like, "Is this a sanctuary?" You're
I
like,
know, right? Yeah, I'm really drawn to like peaceful, beautiful, natural environments. And so, a colleague of mine who has a podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, John Lee Dumas, he moved to Puerto Rico. So, from San Diego to Puerto Rico, and he did this little video tour of his beautiful mansion and wrote a whole blog post about the benefits of living in Puerto Rico. So, as an entrepreneur, if you qualify, you only pay 4% business tax and 0% capital gains. That's why a lot of crypto people move there. And it just kind of planted a seed in my mind. It took a couple years, but eventually I took the plunge and moved to Puerto Rico. And so it's been a really great place for me to build wealth. With the low taxes and the incredible entrepreneurs I meet there, and basically like living my dream life on a tropical island. And I thought that I wouldn't do something like that until I retired, but he gave me the vision to like, let's go and do this now, right? And so John, he is a dear friend, but he wasn't someone that I was like talking to all the time. So we can be rich relationships to other people, even simply by having a podcast, by sharing things on social media. Like literally, when we go for our dreams and we live our most authentic life and we love ourselves and we express ourselves fully, like we are inspiring other people to do the same. So I actually believe that being the fullest version of yourself and loving yourself is probably the biggest contribution that you can make to the world.
I completely agree. Everybody listening.
Right?
I
We're
mean,
so
like,
aligned.
that's like, yeah, I mean, that's where it starts too. And
Yes.
like you said so many times, people can overlook that and just think you just give first, and you have to give here first. You have
Yes.
to and be able to receive. So have you had some lessons in that? And is that in the book about
Absolutely.
receiving?
Yeah, I have so much to say about that. I mean, the interesting thing is there are areas of relationships in which I struggle, and we should circle back to this. But one thing that I used to do was I would get into relationships with all the wrong kinds of people. I didn't, I overlooked red flags, so that was like my weakness. But something that I've been very good at, it is my superpowers. I'm really good at asking and I really enjoy receiving. So even like, right now we have this book launch going on. I'm reaching out to my friends being like, "Hey, I'm in Austin. Do you know anyone that does in-person interviews? I would just so love to get more in-studio podcast interviews." And as a result, I have received like this incredible honor of being on your podcast. And I have an event tonight with a dear friend. We're doing a pizza party and a little mini kind of live interview with the audience, and there'll be 40 people there. And I'll be sure to let people know, like, that I would love their support in spreading the message around this book. And I'm going to be putting together an incredible book launch team. And my vision is 400 people plus on the book launch team. I would love for them to be on it. And we're going to have a book club for everyone on the team. And there'll be all these kind of fun prizes. And they'll get to be behind the scenes of a best-selling book launch. And so, you have to put the invite out there in order for people to say yes. But when people are like, "I want to help you," I'm like, "Yes, I am ready to receive all the help. I'm going to need all the help," because there's certain goals that you can achieve on your own, but there's other goals that you can only achieve in support with other people. Like you have to collaborate. So when you have a book, you want to have thousands of people buy the book, not just 12 people or even 100 people, right? Thousands. But to get thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions, you need other people to be spreading the message. You can't do that by yourself, right? So that's why I am, on podcasts. I am talking to friends about how can we collaborate? How can I support your communities? I am inviting people on the book launch team. So I think a big reason why, I mean, there's so many reasons why people aren't getting help. But one is they're not really clear on what they want. Like, just imagine if you were talking to a friend and you're like, oh my gosh, you've just been such an incredible friend to me. Thank you for helping me with some of my most important goals. And I just want to be, I want to be a source of support for you. How can I help you? Or what have you got coming up? And if they're just like, oh, I don't even know like what you would help me with. Or then it's like, well, what do you do? Right. Versus if someone declares, like Todd Herman in my book, he had decided he wanted to become a world famous speaker. And he had a goal of, getting 30 speaking gigs in 30 days, like locking those in. And so he just like announced it. And then at every talk, he was like, this is my goal. I want to get X number of speaking gigs. And everybody in the room was thinking, ooh, how are we going to help him reach his goal? Who do I know? And he was like, I'm happy to speak on any stage, whether it's a stage of 5 people or a stage of 100 people, I am down for everything. So you have to get really clear on what are our goals and communicate that with other people. So if someone is like, hey, oh my gosh, it's been so long. Like, how are things in your world? Like, things are great. Things are really exciting. I'm in a place where I'm really looking to do more speaking right now and get my message out. I recently did XYZ event. It was so exciting. And yeah, I would love for you to keep me in the back of your mind because I'm open to any kind of speaking. And this is my number one goal for this year. Like if you have that kind of clear communication and you share that with multiple people, like let's say over the course of a week, you shared that with 5 to 10 people every single week, you would have nonstop opportunities guaranteed, but it has to start with you and you have to have that clarity and then share it with other people.
And be ready.
Yes.
And just like, and it doesn't even take that much work. You basically can find one of your goals. This happened to me not too long ago with the women's initiative that I was talking about.
Yeah.
With Fight for Her. And I was like, oh, I think that with a nonprofit too, you can be like, we have to have a gala, massive thing. But I was like, you know what? I noticed that there were a couple of women that were saying, oh, I'd love to help or I'd love to do something. And I wasn't ready. I hadn't checked in to know exactly what I needed.
Right.
And once I consulted with somebody, they were like, you know what, just host something with someone who says that. And I was like, yeah. And so then I got really ready. And I was like, when that happens again, I'm going to be ready. And it happened again. And I said, let's plan it. We texted, we got it planned and got it done. And
Incredible.
so it's just just being ready for those moments and those opportunities that are going to arise. Right. And like when you tell somebody about it, then you're able to, or just saying, yeah, like I am speaking and I know I want this X goal rather than a nebulous, I want to be a speaker, right? It's like, no, I want 30 speaking gigs booked in 30 days. Like, amazing. Did he get it, by the way?
Oh, yeah. He surpassed his goal.
That's awesome. I'm going to have to tell Justin that because Justin's got a goal. So, oh my gosh, that's really, really cool. Okay, so we've got our 3 types of givers, but we wanted to check back in with the red flags and the relationships that you had built, but that
were not good. Yeah.
But they were good because they fed this book.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah. So, with rich relationships, I mean, rich relationships are healthy relationships, right? They're positive relationships. That being said, there are relationships that are rich in lessons. And so, it might have ended badly.
That's a great twist.
Right?
I love that. That's right.
Rich in lessons. But the thing is that we know that we want to be able to break the cycle. So it's like as soon as you learn the lesson, it stops repeating itself. So we don't want to have to like replay the lesson like 7 times. We want to like
I think we all can relate to that.
2. Yeah. So I think that the reality is like out in the world, there are people that are, like whether they are mentally unwell, emotionally volatile, whatever it is, we can't prevent ourselves from connecting with these kinds of people that are not aligned for us.
Sure.
But we are responsible for deciding how long do we allow them to stay in our lives and especially in our inner circles. And so I had a lot of experiences from romantic partners to team members to business colleagues where things like start off really strong. And it's like, oh my gosh, I love this person. They're my new bestie. They're my this and that. And then over time, you discover, oh, I'm getting to see who they are. Or, there is like a dynamic that is unhealthy. And I think for me, once I was deep in relationship with someone, it was kind of hard to untangle myself from that. And maybe I extended trust way too quickly to people and also made a lot of allowances for bad behavior. I would focus on the good and minimize the positive. I think we've all been there. And yeah, it reached a place where I had like so many unhealthy relationships that I don't want to say I was attracting them, but some of these people were drawn to me and I kind of allowed them to stay in my orbit for too long.
They have a sixth sense for like,
Yeah, right?
like, oh wait, other people are getting away with stuff. Hold on, I can
Yeah.
too, kind of thing.
So I think that sometimes, so I know that I'm not the only one. I have a feeling that there's a lot of listeners that have like fallen into that camp of letting people
Literally
stay,
everyone.
everyone, right? Like past the expiration date. And I think we just have to get really honest, like with this relationship, does it feel energizing and expansive or does it feel draining? And typically like these toxic unhealthy relationships, there are things that are good about them. They drew us in somehow. Maybe it was someone that was so inspirational and they have this grand vision that maybe they also are a narcissist. Or maybe there's someone that is so kind and accommodating, but then they're also the person that lashes out and demonizes you because they don't feel appreciated, right? So that's why in the book I talk about the importance of patience, right? And really giving people time to reveal themselves. So rather than being like, okay, I just met her, she's my business bestie, it's like you don't really like establish that in like one or two meetings, right? Someone that's like your business bestie is someone that you've known for a longer stretch of time, right? Or, oh, I should have, hired other people or interviewed other people versus just hiring the first person that I felt excited about, right? So I think that, we can always hope for the best, but also, give relationships time and space and just really have an understanding that, people are complex and there's so much to the fullness of who they are. And we need to allow that to unfold over time so that we can get to know them and that they can get to know us.
Yeah, and it's that part of that relaxed abundance, I would think,
Right?
it's
There's
like,
no rush. They're not going to go anywhere. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. Yeah.
yeah. Tell me about your spiritual background a little bit.
Oh, that's such a good question. I would call myself spiritual, not religious, but I always, believe in divine
Same, by the way.
intervention. Yeah. And that everything is unfolding the way that it does. So even with the bad relationships in your life, I don't want to say that you've attracted them, but everything is here to, for a reason, right? Whether it is like, okay, it's time to break the cycle, or maybe this is a relationship that is worth diving deeper into. That with every single bad thing in my life, there has always been a gift that is greater than the bad thing. So, yeah, I definitely have that kind of approach when I go through life of trusting that everything's unfolding perfectly.
Do you have practices around all this? Like, what are your
I
regular
don't. I
practices?
mean, the thing is, I work in the world of elevating experts, authors, thought leaders,
So
visionaries.
you're learning all the
So,
time how,
yeah,
like,
so basically my clients like embody all of these positive messages. So just like in supporting them,
yeah,
that's a part of it. But I think that, I'm fortunate that a lot of my friends have this deep background in personal development, in spirituality, that these are just like the normal conversations that we have.
yeah.
And yeah, for me, like it's hard to be super close to someone where we don't have that depth. And actually, I feel like this is a perfect time to talk about the six circles of connection.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
let's do the six circles of connection. And I want to ask, adjacent to that too, maybe before we get into the six circles, when somebody feels like, oh, I'm averse to networking, like that's a bad word to them.
Hmm.
What do you tell them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that it's not about quantity, it's about quality, and that all of us, our lives are enriched by having these, rich
I
relationships in
mean,
our
duh.
lives,
Yes,
right?
always. Yeah.
And there's many, different types of people. There's mentors, there's confidants, there's super connectors, there's promoters, there's many kinds of rich relationships in our lives. But I think that the big thing is people feel overwhelmed like, oh my gosh, like, do I need to make all these new connections? And how do I maintain them? I've already got so much going on in my life. And so studies have shown that typically people can manage about 150 relationships at a time, just like given the ways that our brains are wired. And so when you think about 150 number, those relationships, you're not treating them equally. The reality is that certain people are going to have more trust built between you and them and a closer level of proximity to you. So, what really helps is thinking about the six circles of connection. So, circle one is basically your innermost circle. For most people, that's typically 1 or 3 people. It could be more, or someone could literally have no one in their circle 1. But these are people that are basically doing life with you. They're on the pulse of what's happening. For a lot of people, that would be if they have a significant other or life partner, and that's a healthy relationship, right? That would be like a circle 1 relationship. It could be a best friend that you tell everything to. It could be a longtime therapist who you have weekly calls with, and she is privy to your innermost thoughts and knows exactly what is happening in your life. It could be a business partner that you work closely with. So that's circle 1. Now, circle 2, it varies, but let's say there's about a dozen or so people in circle 2. So these are called your treasured connections. They are extremely close to you, but they're not necessarily doing kind of day-to-day life and privy to everything. Like your closest connections. But you know that with these treasured connections, if you said, help, I'm in trouble, I need you would be their they're there, they will rearrange what's going on because they're your go-tos, right? So that's those are the treasured connections. Then there's circle 3. So this is going to be the majority of your rich relationship network. So this is the active network, right? So these are people that you would happily invite to a party. You could reach out to them and you expect to hear back from them. If you need help, these are people that would be very open and interested to being that supportive person. If they're particularly busy, it might take a little bit of time, right? But these are people that you feel like, okay, there's trust, there's mutual respect. These are my genuine friends and colleagues, and they're an active part of my network.
Yeah.
Right? Now there's circle 4. So circle 4, these are more distant connections. So this could be someone who is an acquaintance. You just simply haven't really built that rapport. Maybe it's someone that you just met recently. And even if you feel excited, they're still circle 4 because you just don't know that much about them, right? Sometimes people are in circle 4 because you've intentionally put them there. So, like, let's say there's a colleague of yours and you notice that they've got a really negative vibe. They're always complaining about people. They're always putting people down. They're very gossipy. And you're like, there's a little bit of a values misalignment. This isn't the energy that I want to bring into my life. Maybe you're not like, okay, I'm never going to speak to them again. It's like they can still be kind of in my
A little
network,
bit here.
but a little bit at a distance, right? Or someone that maybe is a little bit unreliable, or there is like a bit of a dishonesty or slight integrity issue. You can still have them in your network, but you're probably not going to have them be your business partner. You're probably not going to spill your deepest, darkest secret. So that's circle 4. And then there's circle 5. And so these are people, this is disconnected. So you've made a decision to not be in connection with them. This could be someone that has betrayed you. And there's just, you've had those important conversations and you're just realizing like, this is just not working out. Like we're done here. But it could also be people that you just simply don't feel safe around. So I know, like there's this entrepreneur that I can think of who has caused a lot of harm to friends and colleagues of mine who really
Wow.
has I don't know, an interesting side of her where she sues a lot of people and,
Well, that's
yeah,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
You
It's
really want
like,
to be with somebody like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like kind of a dangerous, litigious person, but happens to be very charismatic and powerful and influential. For myself, if I was invited to speak on her stage, even though she is so influential, I wouldn't accept that opportunity. I wouldn't accept the opportunity to go to her event. If I knew that there was a very small gathering of like 6 people, I wouldn't want to be in that gathering and build a relationship with her because it just doesn't feel like what I want in my life. So when people are in circle 5, it doesn't mean that you're mean to them, but you just made a decision that we're not going to be energetically bonded. Anyway, like I'm disconnected from that. I'm not available to build that bond. And then there's circle 6. And so these are what's most of the people in the world. It's an unknown connection. They might know you, but you don't know them, or you both don't know each other. And so I find this framework so helpful because I think that, sometimes when we are in relationship with people and we feel like this relationship is not rooted in the truth of who I am, we feel out of integrity, right? Like there's something wrong with us, or we're being dishonest and being connected to them. But if we're just like, you know what? I'm moving this person to circle 4. They can be in my life, but at a distance. It's just like a very valuable mental framework. Someone really disappoints you. Okay, they've moved into circle 4 right now, but I'm also open to the fact that they would move back into circle 3 or, circle 2 or even circle 1.
I like that.
Yeah.
I was just talking, I have an accountability partner. I was just talking with her today and she reminded me about checking in how you feel after you're with someone. And I know someone else, she's been a guest on the show, Lauren
Yeah.
LaHoff, and she had talked about having a process every time. She's in a habit now.
So
So
good.
she checks in how she feels when she's with someone. I love that practice. I love that idea. I haven't really gotten diligent about it. I know that I do it without maybe as consciously as I should,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I'd love to get more intentional, and that's kinda what you're saying too, like, maybe just, like, really check in.
Yeah, because these circles are not based on, ooh, how influential is this person? What can they do for me? Are they connected to
No.
goals? This is based on trust and proximity. Do I feel comfortable? Do I feel like they have my back? Are they someone that I can open up with? That determines
And
what circle they're
are
in.
they living in integrity? Like, because you can feel when something's off, and
Mm,
that's not a rich relationship. In my book,
no.
I just like,
Yeah.
I know Justin's had somebody like that recently, and, like, I was like, "That's just not what we want," you know? That's not the direction that we're going and where we wanna spend our time, and you're gonna 4 or 5 them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like maybe you were that confidant to the person that's constantly down in the dumps and their life is like a nonstop situation of chaos and drama. But we can decide that, you can still love them
Yeah.
and be available, but there are certain boundaries, but you're not going to be dragged into all of that.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely. And some of that I think really does come with age. You know, it comes with because you were talking about in your 20s and stuff, and we do rush a little bit, and you want to fall in love. You know, like it's a rush to have that friend where you're like, we're best friends, and then suddenly, like 3 weeks down the road, you're like, I don't think this is what I thought it was. You know. Yeah, and then with age, you're able to just go, there's
There's
time,
more
first of all,
discernment.
and more. I love that word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that been a, like, word in your book, or is that something that you encourage? Like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many tools inside the book for people to get really clear on what are the rich relationships that, we want to invest in. So when we think about, social skills, we hear a lot about nonverbal skills, our eye contact, our body language. And then we hear about like the verbal skills of how do I make an introduction? What's my elevator pitch? Like, how do I tell stories? But there's this whole other category that basically I've coined, which is strategic social skills, right? So strategic social skills are getting clear on, what are the rich relationships that I want to invest in, right? Getting clear on what are my gifts and how can I contribute to others. It's being able to establish boundaries so that you can be that rich giver, but then you're also taking care of yourself. And I think that as we get older, we get wiser and we have even better strategic social skills.
and the funny part, I think, about the strategic social skills is sometimes sitting in a space of non-strategicness. Like, we have someone that we really value as a donor and as a friend and as just someone in our lives, and he's fairly new to both me and Justin, but I hadn't had time to really sit and talk with him, and I
Yeah.
was at an event recently, and I found myself sitting next to him, and I was like, just enjoyed sitting. We talked about books and movies and just our kids and whatever else. And today Justin said, "Oh my gosh, I meant to tell you what he said about you and how just special you are." Just really sweet. It made me feel so good because he's such a person of integrity, and I really like him. And I was like, "Wow, you know what? We can take that time to just be present." Don't you
Mm,
think? And it's like
100%. Yeah.
strategically non-strategic.
Yeah. No, and
Yeah.
I think this is nuanced. And I love that we're going so deep because you can be strategic and unattached,
Yes.
right? It
Oh, that's so good.
Because it's like strategic is also win-win. I mean, that's the only kind of strategic that I'm interested in is where it's about, we want everyone to benefit from it. So part of like the strategic social skills might be like, you know what? I have a friend that really needs me right now. I want to carve out time and focus on this person. And that's the best use of my time and energy. Right. So these are all, positive things. Or even I imagine with your nonprofit, that you probably have a list of people who are donors and people that you want to cultivate relationships. And some people might think, oh, so strategic, you're making a list, but like that's part of like keeping track of
It
connection.
is.
And when you care about something, you track it, whether it's appointments in your calendar or something else. Because otherwise we forget, and we have to be sure to stay in communication with people, express our appreciation, And so, we do want to have that kind of organization intentionality to make sure that we're on top of our, relationships. So at the end of the day, I mean, I think we can all agree that relationships are the most important thing in our lives. Like more important than money. I have a part in the book where I talk about rich relationships are the world's most valuable currency. So to break this down, you've probably heard people say before, Amy, like attention is the most important thing, right? But you can do all kinds of crazy things to get people's attention. And I used to say that trust is the world's most valuable currency, right? Someone really trusts you. But when you think about it, you could trust someone, but it doesn't mean that you're in relationship with them or you're going to do anything together or support each other. But rich relationships are relationships that are based on trust, right?
Absolutely.
They're relationships based on shared values. They're relationships based on I'm going to show up for you when you need it, that I'm going to support you in creating your abundance and making your impact, right? So when you think about I'll share this story. So I had spent like $7,000 on Facebook ads last summer, which is I spent way more. Spent six figures before, like for a launch on Facebook ads, but this time I spent 7,000, and I didn't get any results. I didn't get any sales or anything from that investment. And it made me think, you know what? Instead of spending money on Facebook ads to grow my business, what if I invested the same $7,000 into rich relationships? But in a relaxed way, kind of relaxed abundance,
Like
right?
what?
So, yeah, so I was thinking about how so many of my friends and colleagues were really struggling with kind of, going back full circle to what we discussed at the beginning. They're going through identity crises and their businesses were struggling. Their homes had been hit by hurricanes and wildfires. They were going through divorces. There were all these different things. I was like, well, what if I was investing in those people? No strings attached, but like, hey, like there's someone I care about and I want to make their life better. And so one of the things I had done, because I, like my colleagues, was experiencing volatility in my business and launches not going as well and all these different
Well, yeah,
things,
you spent 7 grand on Facebook ads and didn't get a
Yeah,
didn't get a
single
nibble.
sale, right, and,
Yeah.
like, in the past, I'd
Yeah.
always, like, make sales on that.
Yeah.
And so I thought, like, what if I invest, like, $200 in each person? So I have a money coach that I work with who has, like, helped me so much get financially organized and make better decisions, and I said to her, "Hey, would you be open if I did, like, a massive bulk purchase? If you could provide me sessions at, like, a really, kinda like the best cost that you could give it to me, and then I can gift those sessions to other people that could really benefit from your work, and maybe if they love the work, they'll continue and you'll get a new client."
This is like win-win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, and so
Not just a win-win, it's like
it's
triple,
win-win-win.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh my
triple. Yeah.
gosh.
And so for $200, we created this little package, and I would reach out to friends and just be like, "Hey, I was just thinking of you because I recently hired this money coach who has helped me so much. And I know that, you're navigating a divorce right now, or I know that your home was recently hit by the hurricane or this and that. And if you're interested, I would just love to gift you this mini package of sessions with this coach because
Mhm.
I just feel like we all need this. And just to be clear, this is like, I don't need anything from you. I just want to purely give it to you. And
I'm loving this experiment.
yeah.
Oh my
So I'm
god.
like, let me know if I can connect you. And they were, pretty much everyone is like, absolutely. Yeah. So I just make the connection. So, like, okay, let's break this down. It's like a 90-second voice note, or maybe even less, like 60 seconds. And then I'm making an email intro. So I'm only spending like 2 or 3 minutes total. And then my coach is doing these like hour-long sessions with them, right?
Yeah.
And one person after 2 sessions was like, Jenna Rose showed me how to save $1,500 a month. And I did the math and I'm like, okay, 1,500 times 12 months, she's saving $18,000 a year now
Mm.
because of Jenna Rose, right? 2 years, that'll be 36,000. Another person said, we were talking about my recent divorce and I realized that I'm entitled to this whole other sum of money that I didn't even think about. Right. And so all these people are sharing stories. And again, it only took me 3 minutes and like $200. But I'm the kind of person like I would spend $200 on anybody that I cared about. Like that is just kind of a no brainer amount to invest in someone, especially if I feel like that investment makes a massive difference. So I'm like, okay, well, my little kind of budget right now for this particular initiative is $7,000. So I'm going to help 35 people with their finances. And, some things have started to happen. And again, I have zero attachment. Like I don't need anything. But that being said, like people have said to me, oh, you've got that I'm so excited about your book, Rich Relationships. And this is someone that I had given the coaching to. She was like, I would love to promote it to my audience. And she's got an email list of, 50,000 people. And I
Wow.
was like, oh, that's so kind. Like I would love to receive that support. Thank you. Right. And all kinds of people are just, and when you give so generously to others, other people want someone like you in their lives. And they also, when they have their own abundance, I've got my podcast, I've got my email list, I know this amazing person. They want to pass that abundance back to you many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just that energy that you're putting out, we don't know how it's going to come back
Yeah.
because you were living the definition of relaxed abundance.
Yeah.
Like you were just spreading it and like, you know what? We don't know what's going to happen. Like,
Right.
and that's so true just about everything when we're putting it out there. We don't know,
Yeah, and I
you
think
know?
that I also want to make the point that like we want to operate from a place of relaxed abundant, even if we're not feeling particularly abundant. So I've had times in my business and life where it's like a launch has not gone well. This money that I was expecting to come in is not here right now. And I'm still going to choose to lead with generosity. I'm still going to invest. I'm still going to support. And for other people, it might be like, okay, I'm going to be the first to like, donate when I see that my friends have like a Kickstarter project or they're, or they have like an important nonprofit. Like it's just, as soon as I see it, I automatically give $100. Like
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
so I think something that can help us is thinking about like what our generosity fund should look like. So this is another term that I've coined. And it's this idea of, parking aside an amount of money that you're going to give generously to people, no strings attached, right? So there's different ways that you could do it. Maybe it could be 1 to 3% of your annual revenue. So if you have $1 million business, 1% would be $10,000, 3% would be 30. Maybe you decide it's going to be a flat amount. My generosity fund is $500 for the year, or it's $3,000 for the year.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be $200 per person. It could be $10 per person, where it's like, hey, coffee's on me,
Yeah. Yeah.
or and if money is really tight, maybe your generosity fund is more about you giving your time and your gifts and your attention to people. But I think it's great to have that like kind of mental, going through the mental exercise of I want to be this rich giver and I have so much abundance within me. Let me think about what amount I want to park aside to just generously give to people that I really care about, including people that can do nothing for you. Or maybe they can, but you're not approaching it that way. I think that then it's just like it feels so good. Because yes, I talk about like, being strategic, right? With your, with the relationships you have and all of that. But there is a part of it where it's also I think that it's not just about like what can I get from someone, but part of the strategy is literally relaxed abundance. Let me be like a helpful, generous person. I feel good. I feel energized when I help all kinds of people around me, and there are going to be some people that maybe pull my heartstrings more than another, or I just really want to be like that advocate and confidant and supporter for them. But I think that when we live our lives that way, I mean, our lives become so much richer.
It's magnetic
It's
and
magnetic.
it's attractive in the most fundamental meaning of that word, attractive, It just is.
Yes.
And I think that there's just this knowledge like you start to identify yourself as a giver. And then if you're in that situation, like we mentioned before, a disastrous situation or whatever it is, you have a fundamental identity piece that is not rooted in what you have, but what you give. How cool is that?
Yes, yes. And another word, instead of using strategic, you could use the word intentional
I love
or
that.
purposeful,
Mhm.
right? But we have to be careful not to be indiscriminate with our energy and our time because then we run ourselves ragged and then we have nothing to give to our rich relationships. And one of the richest relationships is the relationship with ourselves. So we do have to be intentional.
I like that you replaced those words. I heard someone talk about Mel Robbins recently, and they had heard her talk. I think it was not a public thing. And
Okay.
they said, oh, she said that everything she does is strategic, and they were turned off by that. But when you think about strategicness in the context of those synonyms, intentional, purposeful. It makes a lot more sense.
Right. What's most important?
Especially since she's a woman I admire
Yeah.
and the good that she puts out in the world. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I think that we have to be, right? And part of the strategy is that relaxed abundance. It is the
see?
open space and all of that. But yeah, going through the world in an intentional way, like really actively designing our life in the way that we want it and the people that we want inside of it.
Big time. Big
Hmm.
time. That's something that I was turned on to many years ago. I was listening to like Tony Robbins cassettes in the 90s, but he was talking about that, designing your life and stuff. And it was just such a novel concept to me at the time. But we can be strategic about that and strategic as how we're going to develop ourselves,
Yes.
show up as a giver.
Yes.
I am going to give. And in the nonprofit world, now that I understand that so much more, I know how much it means to us. And so, like you said, it takes a second, right? And if you've set aside some funds, or even if it hurts a little bit, like, you know what? I want to be the type of person that shows up. And I know
Yeah.
how much it means to us. And now that I'm on the other side, and I'm like, if somebody asks now, I am like, yes. The answer is yes.
It's just
Yes.
automatic,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I want to support and keep putting good in the world. So what have we, as we're coming up on time, I want to ask you, what have we missed that you really wanted to talk about today? Or what's on your heart right now that maybe you'd like to express before we go today?
Yeah, I mean, we have covered so much. So I feel like
You're a great
everything that we've
interviewee.
done. Oh, you're so
It's
sweet.
easy.
But I
So
think
easy.
that this was
Love it.
this was perfect. I'm trusting that this was the right amount of information for this audience. And sometimes it's really about not just like listening to these concepts, but thinking about how I can apply it to my life. So I love the idea of everyone, kind of thinking about this concept of a generosity fund and what that might look like for them. How can they generously support people? How can they generously share their gifts to the world, with the world? And then the other thing I want to share is actually a free gift that I have for your listeners. Um,
Of course you do.
uh, but I'm just so excited about getting this work out into the world. And I have like this vision, and it's kind of crazy because there are so many, brilliant books out in the world that there's certain books where people are like, this is my favorite business book, or this book has changed my life. Like, I want Rich Relationships to be one of those books that people say, this book has changed my life. And so I just want to get it out to as many people as possible. So what I'm doing is I'm giving away the first 4 chapters of my book for free. So they can get that at richrelationshipsbook.com/Amy Edwards. You get the first 4 chapters for free. But in addition, I'm including a bundle of my Rich Relationship scripts, right? So a big part of Rich Relationships is knowing how to reach out to people, whether it is saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is my biggest goal. Can you support me with this? Or, hey, do you know any people that could use my services? Or would you be willing to offer me a testimonial, right? But a lot of people don't know how to make asks, and therefore they're not receiving riches that are literally waiting there for them. They're right. There's so many people that want to help, but well, one, they don't even know what to ask for help. So I have a list of like 20 different things you can ask for help with. But then I also have the 20 rich relationship scripts. So they can get the 20 rich relationship scripts for free. And in my business, like these scripts have helped me literally make millions of dollars. And so I've bundled them all so they can get the first 4 chapters and the 20 plus rich relationship scripts at richrelationshipsbook.com/Amy Edwards.
Oh my God, I want it. That's so valuable.
Mhm.
And plus it can just get your mind going in that vein. So you're like, oh wait, but then this is an idea, right? It's like
Yeah,
gets you
yeah.
going on that track too. So valuable. That's so incredible that you're putting that out because that's the ripple effect that is just creating this world that we want to live in, right? And
Absolutely.
creating your, life path in this just richly abundant way.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Everything will be in the show notes, but would you like to just shout out again your links and how everyone can follow you and find you?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to find me is on Instagram. So Selena_Soo. And feel free to say hello and say that you heard me on the Amy Edwards show. That would be so exciting for me. And then, yeah, if they want to go ahead and download the scripts and the book, it's at, richrelationshipsbook.com/Amy Edwards.
Yes, absolutely. And again, all that'll be in the show notes. It's SOO. And I'm just so glad we got to connect and that I got to lift your voice.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for being one of my rich relationships.
Same,
You are.
same.
Yeah.
I got so much out of this. It really speaks so much to where I am in my own life right now. And this is just really powerful stuff. So I'm so happy to be able to do my part to amplify your voice and your work and all that you're doing to help others
Thank you.
just keep all ships rise, right?
Absolutely.
All ships rise. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you to you for being here today. I am so grateful for all these rich relationships. They mean so much to me. I mean, like when people ask, what are you up to? Like my podcast is my number one. It just is my heart. I just love it so much. So thank you for showing up today because this is getting us in that mindset of all ships rise, of showing up together, of lifting others up and creating the world that we really want to live in. And I just love you so much. So thank you. Of course, follow me, Real Amy Edwards, or join the newsletter if you haven't yet, amyedwards.info or amyedwards.com. Everything you wanted to know and more. So thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. Keep shining bright. Till next time. Thank you so much for being here. Please rate, review, and follow us. And we'd love to hear your feedback. Keep shining bright.